Well, the first thing we needed to do is to do what the Americans do after every crisis, which we never do in Europe. And that is to sit around the table and ask ourselves, okay, how do we defeat this crisis? Not to blame each other, not to try to pretend that there is no European crisis, but that there is a Greek crisis or an Italian bank's crisis, but to understand this is a systemic crisis which requires a systematic approach. We never did this in Europe. So how about a little bit of rationality, common sense, and interest in binding together instead of pushing the problem onto somebody else? Italy is facing a major financial crisis. There is already a capital flight. More than 300 billion have left Italian banks through the European Central Bank's quantitative easing program primarily. At the same time that the European Central Bank is going to stop buying Italian debt, a lot of Italian debt will have to be rolled over, and Italian banks will be forced by Frankfurt to sell off something like 280 billion euros of Italian government debt. This is not a good development for Italy. Italy should be prospering because you have in this country an economy which is in surplus both externally and in terms of its government. The fact that it is not prospering is a reflection on the terrible architecture of the Eurozone. Throughout Europe, not just in Italy, there is a clash between an establishment that has failed and is failing and the nationalist international movement, an insurgency of nationalism and xenophobia that is contesting the establishment. Now this is a real clash, but nevertheless, the most important point to make is that the establishment needs that nationalist insurgency in order to survive, and the nationalist insurgency needs the establishment. So in that sense, they are accomplices, they're together. And what we're trying to do as DiEM25 is to stand against both of them and to point the way to a set of rational policies that would end the nationalism and at the same time stop the business as usual of the establishment which is destroying Europe and destroying its peoples really. Well, Italy is already doing a lot. This country has taken 200,000 migrants in the last year, like Greece has done a lot. So the question is not what can Italy do or Greece can do, but what can Europe do? When is Europe going to grow up and accept its humanistic responsibilities towards people fleeing from incredibly difficult circumstances?